He is the ultimate paradox, a figure of pure fantasy, yet inextricably tied to nearly 2 millennia of real human history. The jolly man in the bright red suit, the flying sleigh, the North Pole workshop. We think we know him, but the Santa Claus we celebrate today is the incredible result of 1,700 years of mythology, a transatlantic journey, a pivotal poem, and yes, some brilliant commercial art. Welcome to Mythical Legends, the series where we dig into the unbelievable stories that shape our world. We're starting with the well-known legend, Santa Claus. The story of Saint Nick, Santa Claus, Sinterklaas, and even Kris Kringle begins on the sun-drenched streets of ancient Turkey in the year 280 AD. Our story begins in the 4th century in the sun-drenched Roman port city of Patara, a harbour city in what is now modern-day Turkey. Nicholas was born to wealthy Greek Christian parents, but was orphaned early in his life by an epidemic. He inherited a substantial fortune from his parents, and now being raised by his uncle, who was a bishop, Nicholas was determined to use his wealth to serve others, a conviction that defines his entire life. Nicholas rose quickly, becoming the Bishop of Myra during a time of intense turmoil. Historical records suggest that under the anti-Christian purges of Emperor Diocletian, Nicholas was arrested, tortured, and imprisoned for his faith. This gives his later acts of generosity a powerful edge. He was not just a generous bishop, but a survivor and a man willing to sacrifice everything for his beliefs. He was eventually released after Constantine legalized Christianity. His high point in history was attending the First Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, a pivotal meeting called to define Christian doctrine. Nicholas, the former prisoner, was now arguing alongside the most powerful figures of the early church. A famous, though unproven legend even states that Nicholas was so infuriated by the theological arguments of a heretic named Arius that he struck him across the face. True or not, this portrays Nicholas as a passionate, zealous defender of the faith, which contrasts sharply with the purely jolly image we have today. It's the secret, unsolicited nature of the gift, the refusal of recognition, that made him a saint. In the early church, sainthood was not a formal process like today. It was based on popular veneration following death. Nicholas was deemed a saint because of 3 things. 1. His miraculous generosity. In the dowry legend, a poor man's 3 daughters faced ruin. Nicholas decided to intervene in secret, tossing bags of gold through the man's window or down a chimney 3 times. He refused any credit, believing true charity must be secret and anonymous. 1 bag famously landed in a stocking, the foundation of that tradition. 2. His defense of the innocent. Nicholas was a fearless protector. His most famous act of public bravery involved 3 Roman generals falsely accused of treason. Nicholas heard of the injustice and rushed to the execution site, where he, with stunning courage, stepped directly onto the platform. He seized the executioner's sword and immediately began confronting the corrupt officials. His intervention was so bold that the generals were spared. 3. His reputation for posthumous miracles, particularly for those at sea. As the patron saint of sailors, countless tales described him appearing to ships caught in terrible storms, calming the waters. A famous tale recounts a famine where Nicholas appeared and instructed sailors to distribute a cargo of wheat to the starving, promising the wheat would miraculously refill. It did. These powerful legends turned him into a true wonder worker. Nicholas died on December 6th, which became his feast day. After his death, Nicholas's story spread. In the Netherlands, he became Santa Claus, Sint Nicolaas, still a solemn figure riding a white horse and delivering gifts on December 5th. As the centuries passed, myra fell out of Christian control. In the Middle Ages, relics, the sacred remains of saints, were believed to possess immense spiritual power. In 1087, sailors and merchants from the Italian port city of Bari mounted an expedition to seize the relics of St. Nicholas. They succeeded, and when they brought the bones back to Bari, the city was instantly transformed. Bari became the pilgrimage centre of the entire Western world, second only to Rome and Jerusalem. Thousands of pilgrims flocked there. Because Nicholas was the patron saint of sailors and merchants, these travellers carried his stories along the major Hanseatic trade routes and through Western Europe. As the centuries passed, the solemn Greek bishop began to assume a multitude of new identities. In Russia, he was venerated and took form as the revered wonder-worker. In the Germanic lands, his generous image became strangely entangled with terrifying figures like Krampus, who actively punished the naughty. Meanwhile, in the Netherlands, he maintained his essential dignity, becoming Sinterklaas, a solemn figure who rode a white horse and retained his traditional bishop's robes. This evolution culminated in England, where he merged with the native midwinter spirit, becoming Father Christmas, a figure often draped in deep greens, browns, or blues, the last European form before his ultimate journey to America. By the 16th century, the legend faced its greatest challenge: the Protestant Reformation. Reformers like Martin Luther rejected the veneration of saints, arguing it was a distraction from worshipping God directly. They saw St. Nicholas Day, December 6th, as too Catholic. In Protestant regions, feast days honouring saints were often suppressed. Luther's solution was brilliant. Shift the focus from the saint to the Christ kind, or Christ child. This single move shifted the date of giving from December 6th to Christmas Eve, December 24th. The term Christ kind eventually morphed into the Germanic Dutch-American figure we know as Kris Kringle. When the Dutch brought Sinterklaas to New Amsterdam, New York, the figure was already carrying the weight of this massive religious conflict. He needed a complete overhaul in a diverse new country where his name was anglicised to Santa Claus. In 1823, everything changed with the poem A Visit from St. Nicholas, or as it is also known, The Night Before Christmas. The poem's author, believed to be Clement Clarke Moore, took the grave, tall European bishop and, for the first time, gave him his modern, magical mechanics and a new look. It transformed the tall, serious bishop into a chubby and plump, jolly old elf. Critically, he was not described as a tiny, miniature creature. The term elf here was used to denote his magical, supernatural nature, one of the wee folk imbued with power, not his size. For the next 40 years, artists struggled to capture his look, varying his size, colour, and appearance wildly. Moore gave us the flying sleigh, the specific 8 reindeer names, and the act of coming down the chimney with a bound. But this poem did more than just describe him. It invented the modern image we know today. Wait, the poem gives us the personality and the mode of transport, but it describes him in a suit of fur, tarnished with ashes and soot. It doesn't give us the bright, iconic red and white suit we know today. For that, we turn to a Civil War-era cartoonist. The artistic chaos ended in 1863 during the American Civil War with illustrator Thomas Nast while he was working for Harper's Weekly. Nast grew Santa from that small, elf-like figure into the large, rotund man we know today. He gave him his current beard, his iconic sack of toys, and crucially, solidified the colour red for his coat. Nast also gave him a permanent home, the North Pole, and he even used Santa to support the Union cause during the war. Many people believe the modern red suit was invented by Coca-Cola. This is a common myth. While red was already popularized by Nast, Coca-Cola is responsible for perfecting and globalizing the image. In 1931, Coca-Cola hired artist Haddon Sundblom. His paintings define the details: the hearty laugh, the ultra-rosy cheeks, and the luxurious, full, deep red suit trimmed with thick white fur. This image was reproduced billions of times, making it the undisputed global standard. The character's flexibility made him an enduring staple of cinema. Hollywood, in particular, has devoted hundreds of hours of screen time to his dramatic potential, often cycling through three main archetypes: the judge, the mystery, and the magic. The judge is perhaps the most famous, as this version tests the very definition of reality. Think of Miracle on 34th Street, where Santa isn't just delivering gifts. He's compelling an entire court system to confront and rule on the validity of belief and identity itself. Then there is the magic, featured prominently in family films like The Santa Claus. Here, the core plot device is the mechanics of his incredible job. The suit, the instant travel, and the classic take over the job trope, proving that the magic is real. And finally, the mystery. This is where the narrative centers on doubt, where the hero's quest, be it the young boy in the Polar Express or Buddy in Elf, is to witness, prove, or restore genuine belief in Santa's existence and magic. These three cinematic personas demonstrate the character's ability to adapt, ensuring he remains central to the Christmas story, regardless of the plot. Next time you see Santa, remember you're looking at a 1,700-year-old journey, a legend that evolved and travelled to become the universal symbol of goodwill that he is today. The Santa Claus we believe in is a composite figure embodying one of the most remarkable stories in folklore. His heart of generosity comes from the 4th-century Greek bishop, Saint Nicholas. His magical mechanics and personality are from the 19th-century American poem, A Visit from Saint Nicholas. And his iconic look is the result of a Civil War-era cartoonist, popularized by 20th century advertising. Santa Claus transcends the holiday. He is a perfect symbol of a character built on piety, poetry, and commerce. He is the ultimate myth built layer by layer over millennia.